Hi folks. Oh, there's a Mick. Hi Mick. Right. What button do we press now? Oh, you'd think I'd know, wouldn't you? There we go. Hey! How are we all doing? Welcome to another midweek hobby session. A hump day hobby session. How about that? Hump day Americanism. We don't really say that here, do we? Hump day hobby session. Right. What have we got here? We have a Scinari Calligrave. That's what we're going to be painting today. Already done him with a black base coat and then a zenithal with a light grey, and then over the top with a pure white dry brush. So we've got all the detail picked out there quite nicely. That'll work really, really well. Right, I'll find my glasses now because I can't actually see to paint. I thought, there we are. Right. Ooh. Oh, right, cool. Now I can see him. Brilliant. Right, he is a Scinari Calligrave. He is one of the majorly orders of the Lumineth. And I kind of imagine these guys being stuffed away in a tower somewhere, much like they were on Ulth 1. Ulth 1? Yeah, it is Ulth 1. With the White Tower of Hoth. I think that's pretty much where their inspiration came from. I've got an illuminator here, and they've got this weird sort of pale blue thing going on in most of their pictures, so I'm going to try and echo that on this guy. And I've also echoed that. I've repainted my Blade Masters slightly to incorporate that blue as well, because they're kind of like the Sword Masters of Hoth. They bodyguard these guys, so that'll tie them together. And I kind of have an idea, because the way I'm building my force is I'm going to have a unit of Blade Masters, a unit of the Wardens, which are the Spearmen, and a unit of the Sentinels, which are the Archers, as a Vanguard detachment. Battle group? Subdivision of army, whatever. Well, I can't remember what they're called. Battle group, I think they are. Battalion. Thank you. What am I thinking? Thanking me. I'm thanking my brain. Led by a wizard. So it will have a character and 3 infantry units, and they will tie them together somehow in some sort of nice way. So I think these will go with the majority of my forces, which are painted more. This guy isn't quite finished, but indicative of what I've got going on. Real autumnal theme. And I think for the other mage, which I've put somewhere. Can't remember where have I put it. I put him down. Only just put him down. Oh, right, there we are. I might incorporate some of that blue for the other one. Don't know. I haven't decided yet. I've only got half the army painted, but you know, I've only got to get it all painted by the weekend. It's fine. So I better get underway. Calligraves. What do? They're kind of the magic of calligraphy. They paint runes in the air and make things happen. They're very weird. I'm sure they're detailed in one of the books. Okay, so that blue started off as one of the new contrast paints, the Briar Queen Chill. Pretty much straight out of the bottle. I'm going to thin it down a little bit. Flesh, I have just been using a Reikland Flesh shade straight over the grey, which is what I'm going to do now. As I find it's generally best to start with the innermost surface, in this case the skin, and work outwards. Oops. Tell you what, those pikemen were a bit of a pain to paint, because you forget just how long their spears are. And when you're turning the miniature around, you've got this massive 3-inch pike, 4-inch pike flailing around on your screen, on your desk, and threatening to knock paints over and things. And they're not as flimsy as they look. Hello Jamie, hello Kevin, hello CA. So this is Reikland Flesh shade, straight out of the bottle, straight onto the miniature, over the slap chop base of grey dry brush with white, over black. So we're getting some nice deep shadows from the black, and a nice underpainting effect from the rest of it. You can see straight away. I mean, you could have spent hours doing that. Oh, I mean, it's apparent that I haven't, but it's a pretty good effect all the same. I would recommend to anyone that they try this underpainting technique. Once you've got the basics of painting zeroed in, because it really does speed things up, and it teaches you an awful lot about light and shade and produces some nice looking miniatures for not much effort. But I think it's worth putting in the effort, at least in the first few months, to learn the basic techniques of painting before cutting corners like this. And it is cutting corners. There's his face done. Move OBS over where it's more natural, because I've got two screens set up and I was planning to turn my head because I put this in the wrong place. Right. And then I think what we'll do, I'm going to get some Agros dunes going on the go. I agree, mate, there's nothing wrong with cutting corners, but you've got to understand the corners you're cutting, I think. I mean, if nothing else, the grey over the black with the white dry brush over the top enables you to see all the detail on the miniature and see what you're painting and see where light and shadow would naturally be. Well, naturally. Just paint his stick. I'm kind of warming to the aesthetic of these guys. I must admit, when I first saw them, when I was starting back into the Warhammer hobby after many years of hiatus, I wasn't particularly sold on them because of the cow horns and general weirdness. But now I kind of see where they've gone with the influence, and it sort of works in that it's not quite Japanese, it's not quite Chinese, it's not, but it's certainly got this weird sort of Pan-Asian influence, which is kind of endearing. When you look at the shoes, and they're clearly sort of ancient Chinese sort of thing, on weird stilts, because weird stilts reasons, but very much of that sort of aesthetic. And if we've got time, when I'm done painting the contrast paints over the top, I'm going to try and elevate it a little bit with some speculative highlighting and such, and spot shading here and there. I know what I was going to do, and I don't know whether I've got a sword to hand. So I won't worry about that for the time being, but what I was going to do is I was going to paint a bloodletter sword, of all things. With a flaming effect. Maybe I'll leave that for another week. Yeah, I'll leave that for another week. we'll see where we are. We'll see where we are in about an hour or so. If there's enough time, I'll try and... I know I've got a blood letter kicking around somewhere. If there's time, I'll try and fit that in, because it's a simple enough technique. And it can produce some interesting results. Love how this contrast paint works with the underpainting from the grey and the white. Really nice, really pretty. Right. Oh!
Tips for the tips jar.
Tips for the tips jar, dear. Thanks, Mick. He's a good lad, that one. Weird, but a good one. I know he's been having a bit of a hobby slump of late. Hopefully Paulfest 3 will see him right. Or push him over the edge, I don't know, one way or the other. Right, what I was going to do with that is I was going to thin it down a little bit, so I'll grab a little pot of nothing. I will add a little bit of that's contrast medium for now. So a little bit of contrast there, contrast medium, maybe 2 or 3 brushes full. Hi, Chris. And 2 brushes of the contrast, and I think that'll probably do. We just need to thin it down a little bit because it goes on a little bit strong and uniform, this. And you kind of want a little bit more sort of bit more variation from it. I'm just going to go with the lower robes. Might have overdone it with the medium there. You can barely make out the colour there. Yeah, we'll go for a little bit more. So how many of you guys are coming for Paulfest 3? And Mick, I know you are. I think Morton Joe said you were coming as well. Kev, you coming? CA, Chris? What's the score? How many of you are going to be there? In your silly hats and Hawaiian shirts. Optional silly hats and Hawaiian shirts. Good man, good man. Right. Yeah, it's getting there, isn't it? I remember I put a little bit more blue ink on around the edges to get that deeper blue going again. So I won't worry about it looking a bit too washed out at the moment. And we will press on. In fact, oh no, you're not. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. But making decisions here. Making decisions. Because he's got this cool robe, but I don't want to divorce myself too much from the whole yellow and gold theme that he's got going on. I think I might oh, it's a shame, Chris. Still got to pay those bills, eh? There's a lot of that about, unfortunately. Kind of treading water here whilst I figure out what to do with the robes, because I know that the shoulder pads to tie in with the rest of the army are going to need to be yellow. Oh no, there's a little bit of damage there. I have to fix that. Hot pink robes. I mean, sure, why not, but... Oh, well, if your manager doesn't know when you're in and when you're not, you can tell them you were in and you weren't, or tell them you were in and you weren't. Take a bit of extra time off. Not that I would ever advocate doing anything like that. To do with the hat, shall we go with the blue hat? I think we might go with a bit of blue on the hat. Got our knee pads. See what I mean about that? That underpainting just adds in the shadow and highlight. Over and above what you get from contrast paint over a flat grey sear or flat wraithbone. So it's a great technique to get into, or a great habit to get into with the zenithal, certainly the zenithal highlighting. You can see what you're doing. There's lots of little features on this dude, lots of little features. I think what I have been using for the white robes on my Lumineth is another paint that I've lost. Is Mortarian Grime, which is a shade, and it just goes straight over the undercoat, and you get a nice sort of off-white robe, which looks rather cool. So that's an option for his wizardly robes, but I think that might be a bit on the boring side. And I kind of want to bring an extra little bit of contrast into the into his wizardly robes. Right, so the palette I have for my army is yellow, red accents, little bits of blue here and there, and gold and white. Yeah, that's about it. It's about 4 colours. And I want to try and bring that into this so that it ties them in. Let's paint his socks while we're thinking about it. I've got a Seraphim Sepia. Because I want him to have quite light coloured shoes rather than the perhaps it needs to be darker than that. Alright, we'll rethink that. Maybe we will go with the Gorgranta fur after all. Oh, I know. It wasn't that I used, was it? It was a sepia, it just wasn't Seraphim. It was the Green Stuff World Intensity Sepia Vitus. So now pop a little bit of that in there, so it's out of the way. I'll just go on with that. And that's a much deeper sepia. Quite a nice colour to work with. It's a little bit like contrast paint in how it behaves. But it's a nice colour when it goes on. What I think I'm going to do with that once it's dry is hit those boots up with a little bit of Bale brown or something, just to lighten them up and make them a bit more interesting. There's all sorts of detail going on under there. There's something else I want in the sepia. Right, so I think I'm going to go with the white robes, but not quite the same white as the rest of the army. I think I'm going to bust out the Clay White Grey or something like that. We'll see how we get on with that. But we're just blocking in colour at the moment. The thing I like about these Green Stuff World Ink Intensity inks is they go over themselves and deepen really nicely. I think it's a scroll case or a parchment case or something on his back there. Little man bag. I know where I will use the Mortarian grime, and that's for the parchment. Where'd it go? There we are. Straight over that. Don't know what colour we're going to put on the rune just yet, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. Be looking at the new rules for these guys, and I think I might have to get a second one of them. Because two of these working in concert can really bring the hurt to big creatures, which is something I think, having flicked through the battle tome, the ability to front load an awful lot of damage is something they lack. They've got some nice troops, some nice tricks, but there's nothing really that they've got, short of looking at things like Teclis and that sort of side of things. There's nothing really that they've got that can throw out a large amount of damage in a short amount of time. But they're all mages, all of them, apart from weirdly, these dudes. These dudes are not mages. Everyone else is a mage. What am I looking for? That's Gold Gunter, don't want that. That's Seraphim Sepia, don't want that. Gargax Sewer, there we are. Bony boys. Oh, Bone Reapers. Yes? They've got a few nice models. I've been looking at them. Eventually I'm going to have, well, I'm going to have multiple order armies because I've got multiple order armies, but I'm going to have one death, one destruction, one chaos, can do whatever. And my death is probably going to be Soul Blight. For no other reason than I've got a lot of the miniatures from the Cursed City box set. Right, so this is Gargax Sewer, and I'm just putting it over the areas that I'm going to go over with gold a bit later, because it's a fantastic colour, base colour for, well, pretty much all metals actually. Your bronzes, your brass, your gold, sort of steel colours, and it works as a leather as well. It's just a really nice utility brown, and it dries really nice. And vampire counts kind of do exist, but kind of don't. They're the Soul Blight Gravelords, but I don't think the Drakenhoffs of old and what have you still survive. Tomb Kings are kind of gone, but there's kind of an echo of them in the Bone Reapers, but just an echo. It is clearly not what the Bone Reapers are about. Right, that's a metal bit on top of his hat there. I'm going to paint that. This brush is a bit smaller than one I'd normally use for base coating, so things are taking a little bit longer. This is only a number 1. I'd normally use a number 2 or a number 3, or even a number 4, depending on the size of the miniature. I mean, in a sense, it doesn't really matter. The only real as long as it comes to a point, it doesn't really matter. The only real difference is the amount of paint it can actually hold. And the bigger the brush, the more paint it can hold. But you can do real intricate work with 6s and 7s and all sorts, as long as it does come to a point. Why are we sleeping with one eye open now? Are we also hugging our pillow tight? be careful there. Gotta be careful. Don't want to get sued. If there's one outfit that is more litigious than Games Workshop, it's Metallica. I suspect is why Metallica, the Forge World, Games Workshop Forge World for AdMech, is one L rather than two L's. I mean, it's blatant that somebody down the studio that's a bit of a metal fan and was painting up their AdMech in this colour scheme, and oh no, we'll call them Metallica too, because that's really, you know, original. And I can quite imagine Metallica slapping them with a cease and desist if they use two L's. There's more to life than Metallica. I'm sorry, but there is. They had their day. Other Forge Worlds are available. I think that's more or less everything I want to put. No, it's not. You see, Mac, compared to who? You know, in many ways they broke a lot of new ground. That's undeniable. But as with many things, I think there are other bands who have come along and taken the mantle from Metallica and done it better. I mean, even if you listen to their more recent stuff, they're just not a patch on what they used to be. The energy and the emotion's just not there. It's just soulless. I mean, you saw a little bit of it come back with Death Magnetic, but you know, it's just not. It's not another Puppets. It's not another Justice for All. Certainly not another Kill 'Em All. It's you know, well, I suppose they're old men now, aren't they? they suffered a lot from Hetfield clearly wanting to break into country. And never really recovered. No, don't get me wrong, I love country as well. I know, that's a bit of an admission. Probably going to be people looking at me funny now, but yeah, I do. I like country. Modern country, old country. But, you know, there's country out there and Metallica doesn't need to do that. Oh, Rich Old Man. Almost certainly they are, yes. They did what they did and very well and made an awful lot of money doing it. But, at the same time, I think they have been surpassed in terms of energy and the power and everything of what they're doing. Now, I'm not what you could call a metalhead really. I listen to all sorts, but I tend to, in preference to listening to the likes of Metallica these days, I'll reach for Lamb of God or Gojira or something like that. Slayer's still got it. There is indeed some perfectly good country music out there. And the immortal quote, I like both kinds of music, country and western. Surprised Joe hasn't chimed in. Okay, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? I think we're going to use a little bit more of that sepia tone, and we're just going to go under there. Block that in, because mages in armour, I don't know, maybe it's a D&D thing, it just doesn't sit well with me, so I don't really want my mages in anything that looks much heavier than leather. So that's where I'm going, I think. And I kind of have it in my head that these yellow armour sections are cowboyly. So I'm just going to do his belt in Yandan yellow. And let that dry. Because I don't know whether you can see, but that kind of turns into a chest plate as well. But it's mostly in shadow. Slipknot and Enya. Now there's a mashup waiting to happen, isn't it? Still haven't made the decision about the robe. But, you know what? With that grey and white underpainting, it looks painted already. Now that's interesting. You see there? That's all grey, but for some reason it's picking up as that, the same sort of blue as that. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, interesting to given values are interesting. I find these things interesting. Purple robe might... I want to tie the guy into the rest of the army, and there's no purple anywhere else in the army, so purple and hot pink and things isn't going to work. There are things I will do for this channel, but not that. Yeah, I think it's going to be a blue of some sort. It's just, I need to decide what. But while I'm deciding, I'm going to... do the red accent colours. For this tassel butts up against that hat, and I haven't quite decided what colour his hat's going to be yet either. I think it's probably going to be the same colour as the robe. I might do it the same colour as his... Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, I mean the one downside to doing this sort of slap chop style is you've got to be kind of sure where you're putting your brush, because with the contrast paints, especially with the underpainting, if you get paint in the wrong place, it can be a little bit tricky to think that's too much paint. So this is me trying to talk over what I'm doing, and I'm losing a little bit of concentration. It can be tricky to paint over and fix. You won't get the same effect. But once you've got a colour scheme locked in and you know what you're doing, it can be, you can knock things out very, very quickly. Why has slap chop suddenly become a thing? I think it's always been a thing. It's just somebody on YouTube's given it a name and made it popular. I think that's literally all it is. The technique itself, the underpainting in grayscale, is as old as the hills. And it's originally a way of saving pigment back from medieval times when pigments were very, very expensive. You would get artists who would paint the entire picture in grayscale and then hit it up with pigment washes to get exactly this kind of effect. So the technique's as old as the hills. It's just somebody's taken it on YouTube and run with it. Oh, toad in the hole. Oh, do like me some toad in the hole. But I mean, the technique's taken off because it's kind of easy-ish, and produces okay results. I've been running off it for a while, or some variant of it, even before I realised it was a thing, or even before I realised the community at large had decided to call it slapchop. I know it by the French name grisaille. Oh, here comes the cat to shout at me. What do you want, cat? That's throwing you, isn't it? That's throwing you. I don't know when to say hello to you before you've started shouting at me. You're unsure what to do with yourself now, aren't you? Hmm? What do you want? Where are you? Hmm? What? No. That's not happening. You've been fed. No, you've been fed. And you've got water. Nope. Not talking to you lot, talking to the cat. Let's get that. Yeah, he's an old man now. I mean, cats are usually really very good at forgetting when they've been fed, but he's especially good at it. I think he's what, 16, 17 now? So probably on his way out. Still got a bit of energy in him when he wants food, especially in the morning. His trick in the morning is to run around like a mad thing. So he's still got that much about him. The tassels on the robe as well. See, now I've got this accent colour in, I'm thinking I might just leave the robe white. But what I'm going to do to break down that sort of powdery effect you get from, or you can get from doing the underpainting and the dry brushing, is I'm going to go over it with some Soul Blight Grey, just to sort of tie it together and unify it. Yeah, he's a good old age. It's a good old age. I mean, he's clearly not a young cat anymore. He doesn't jump up as much as he used to. Can't get to where he used to, which is a good thing in many ways, because otherwise he'd be up on the desk and interfering with the painting. And who wants a cat interfering with your painting? It's getting all up in the camera. Nobody needs that. Right. Whilst I think about it, I'm going to grab a little bit of a light colour. It doesn't really matter which. This just happens to be Pallid Witch Flash because it was there. I'll take a little spot of that. And just paint over where the damage on that shoulder was. Say damage, something you just chipped away, I think. And there's another little bit there. That looks like where the mould line was, where it joined onto the sprue. So we're just going to go over that with a little bit of a light colour, and then we're going to go over it with some Yandan yellow in a minute. And that should fix that. Alright, what we're going to do with the brush, I'm going to change brush. Because if I'm going, this is Bowl Red. It's a single pigment contrast paint, and it's really quite vibrant, and it has pigment for days in it. And once it is in your brush, you've really got to clean it so well if you then move to a light colour, because it will bleed in. So I'm just going to do that now. And I've also got a fresh brush which I'm going to use to block in with the Soul Blight Grey here. Which is a shade. I thought it was a contrast paint. It behaves like a contrast paint, if a thin one. And what this will do, hopefully, is just tie everything together and give him a light grey or white, depending on how it reads, robe, in much the same way that the Mortarian Grime does. But this will be a cooler, more grey, white, as opposed to the Mortarian Grime, which leans towards sepia. You see how that's tying everything together. You probably can't see anything at all, because it's quite a subtle effect. So you have to take it on trust that it's tying everything together. Possible downside to this is because it's a shade, there's quite a lot of liquid in it, and it does take a little bit of a time to dry. But for the effect you get, it's worth it. because that's clearly part of the same thing. I think we're going to do that on his hat as well. A little bit of white on his hat and a little bit of yellow. So those wingy bits on his hat will be yellow. So wingy bits. It looks like that hat's made out of gourd or something. They're very strange. Strange indeed. I think what I might do, because there's quite a lot of light colour on this miniature, is I might go into the inside of his robe and what would be the outside there with a kind of a deep blue maybe, and then I can feed that deep blue into the recesses of the sleeves as well, just to bring another element of colour in there. So I think I might do that. What shall we use for that? What do we have to have? That's a shade. Well, we will use that. What I'm looking for is... Oh, where's the cat? I have to check really carefully because he's really good at tucking himself in just behind my chair, so when I roll backwards I go over him. He's really good at that. And he's tucking himself in such a way that you can't actually see him, even looking round. He's a little swine. Okay. This may ruin the balance of everything, but we're going to risk it. Risk it for a biscuit. This is Thalasar blue, which is a crazy, crazy, crazy blue. In fact, what we're going to do with that, is that dry now? Yeah, that's dry, good. Right, we're going to dump that in there. That's probably all we need of that, so we can close that. Avoid the brush. Get a little bit of contrast medium. Maybe a brush full. Just thin that down a bit. Because Thalasar blue straight out of the pot is just bonkers. It's just BAM! Blue! Yeah, that's folding over a little bit there. So this is why generally speaking I would prefer to have subscriber only chat. But as it is, I have an admin when he wakes up. Thank you, Mick. You delete the other ones as well. I'm not going mad, am I? Oh, I? They are still there. This channel isn't gaining momentum. Oh, bless your cotton socks. No, they'll be looking for live streams that are currently running. That'll be their only criteria. That said, I usually do have to delete a few bot comments from my my videos when they go up. I wouldn't mind so much if they left a tip, you know? Oops, that was foolish. Didn't mean to do that. Gotta wait for these contrast paints to dry a bit before you go over them again, otherwise you'll tear them. Just gonna get some blue in there just to get the suggestion of the inside of the collar there, which kind of needs to be blue as well. Yeah, I think that kind of works, doesn't it? The other thing I like to use this blue for is gems, but I'm using a different blue for these gems. I'm using Frost Art apparently needs a damn good shake. Got a gem on the hat there. When you're doing gems with contrast paint, you don't need to cover the entire thing, just go over one side of it. Like so. And then with a little bit of water or medium, you can sort of spread it a little bit, blend it in over the rest of it. Oh, I've left it a little bit too long. But the effect you're looking for is with it being lighter over one side of the gem than the other. Getting ahead of myself a bit here because I don't know what I'm doing with that crescent. I think what I might do is with that crescent, I might go for a etheric blow. Ethematic, that's it. Not that. Ethematic blow, which I have put somewhere. Because I didn't think I would be using it, I put it away-ish. That's not it, that's Coccyville Scales. Ethematic blow, there we are. I'm just going to dump that into the recesses. How are we doing for time? Gosh, this is taking longer than I thought it would, but then I suppose, as I was saying earlier about the slap chop style, if you've got the scheme locked in, you could knock miniatures out fairly quickly. But if you, as I am, having to make it up as you're going along and deciding on making decisions of what needs to be what colour, and trying to be careful about where you're putting paint, it can be quite slow. Crescent on his hat wants to be a thematic blue as well. Because as much as the Lumineth appear to be fascinated with the sun, they do have this weird thing with the moon as well. reach for the Pilar Glacier now. Pilar Glacier is my go-to for these lanterns that all the Lumineth seem to carry. Right, there's a bit more happened with this lantern than happened with the rest of the miniatures. I've gone in with a little bit of extra white just to really make it look bright. Just to paint over the centre of the glass. And this Pilar Glacier is just gorgeous. This is another option if you're looking for white robes. You thin this down a bit and just run it over the underpainting. So, as I'm sure I've said before in the past on this channel, white things are very rarely white. Very rarely. They'll always pick up reflection from something. So there'll always be a tint of another colour about it. And it kind of looks weird if it doesn't have it. So I've used all sorts in the past. Blue works really well for a nice clean white. Sepia tones work really well for a sort of a warmer, almost dirty white. Turquoise works bizarrely well for getting a nice clean white as well. That's his lantern done. A little bit of disappointment with where they've decided to put the joins where these things connect to the sprue, but they've got to put them somewhere, I suppose. It's left them. So that's that one there. And you're just not ever going to get that smooth. Right. Almost getting to the point where we can start thinking about doing the metallics. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of shade in between. Now this is Tyron Blue, which is another one of the new shades. We're just going to deepen the shade and the contrast around the edges of the what was it, Briar Queen or something? Briar Queen Chill, that's it. So just a pin shade around the edges, just to get a little bit of contrast going on, and to really sell those recesses. I mean, really, when you're painting for the table, the more contrast the better. But the downside with that is when you take pictures of it, it looks weird. What's that? Is that a brush case or something else? Some sort of weird thing on the side of his belt there. Get that married in as well. Just going to alter the tone of this Thalasar blue. I'm putting just a glaze of the Tyron shade over it. Which will deepen the tone and bring it all together. Now this is what I was afraid might happen, and I think we've lost that kind of autumnal theme a little bit, and he's starting to look a bit like a generic sort of generic Lumineth. So I'm going to try and bring that back, adding a bit more yellow to the scheme. Can we add more yellow? I think that brush box or whatever's on his side, that's going to be yellow. Or yellow and then dulled down with sepia. Maybe even Michael and Flesh shade over the top of that. To give it a bit more of a rosy red look. Over here, when we've got the paint out, we'll just go over where we repaired the shoulder pads. I. You lot weren't involved. I did it. You lot were just along for the ride. Bunch of freeloaders. Not you, mate. You pay for the privilege. The rest of you lot. I've just seen something which is going to bug me if I don't. So I'm going in with the Briar Queen shell just to catch that shoulder, which should have the same sort of undersuit as his trousers.
The kind of music men hum or whistle when they feel on top of the world.
Ooh. He's getting there. He's getting there. Reach for the Seraphim Sepia. We are actually going to use the Seraphim Sepia for this bit because we've got the tips of the brushes to do. There's a brush tip there. I just want a suggestion of the colour there rather than the depth colour that would something like Agros Dunes or something like that would give. Whilst we're here, and whilst the that's wet, what we're going to do is we're going to get a tiny bit of this gag rack sewer, and just on the tip of the brush, just going to add in a little bit of darker colour. Because if you have a look at Chinese brushes, particularly, they put traditional Chinese brushes, that is, not the cheap brushes you get from Wish. There's often a darker tone towards the tip of them because they use a whole load of different hair. It's often horse hair or something like that. And there's a bit of colour variation from the tip to the ferrule. And we're just going to try and suggest that. And I have been painting most of the runes on most of my things. I have been painting red. And I think we're going to carry on doing that for the rune that he's painting on the thing there. Time to get another brush. It's possibly a bit teeny tiny. 3 zeros, that'll do. Get the ball red out again. Trying where I can to use the side of this brush. Obviously you want a bit of the colour on the brush itself. I think what I might do with this is stop talking till I've done it, I think. Yeah, close enough for government work. I think I still want a bit more yellow on this guy. Back to the number 1. Back to the Yandan. And I think we are going to do the wings on his hat. In a Yandan. I think that's kind of a rogue hair stuck in the brush. That's leading into the autumnal theme a little bit more, I guess, although not really. I think that robe really doesn't want to be white, does it? I think that wants to be something else. So it looks okay on a side by side with that, I guess. Looks the same. Looks part of the same army there, would you say? Yeah, I think so. I think we're all right there. I think that'll do. So we're just going to grab the metallic paint now, and for that I'm going to use Retributor Gold. Which is a really nice gold. Just pick out those scales. What can I do with those shoes? Oh, that's a problem for another day. I'm not really blocking in the colour here, I'm just sort of... I mean, there's a lot of the gold going on there, but I'm not being too fussy about getting complete coverage because of what I've done with the Gargax sewer. Even though it's not a metallic paint, it kind of lends itself into the gold colour and adds depth and interest. Maybe a little bit of tarnish, which isn't really right for gold because gold doesn't really tarnish. But it lends itself to that effect anyway. We're going to be going over it with something else as well in a bit. But we're just blocking in where we want it. Which isn't really saying much because you wouldn't block in colour where you don't want it. We'll just chalk that up as verbal diarrhea, shall we? There's a lot of that about. I think I'm being a bit too painstaking here. So I'm just going to we are going to reach for it's an old brush, old naked brush. We get a lot more coverage, a lot quicker by dry brushing it on. And I think it looks a bit better as well, a bit more even. And this just goes to show you don't need an expensive Artis Opus brush to do dry brushing. But if you do want an expensive Artis Opus brush, I have an affiliate link for Element Games, so you can get them there. Oh no, his head's come off. Maybe if I'd had an expensive Artis Opus dry brush, I might have avoided that happening. And you can get them from my affiliate link. And that's not all the things that Element Games sell. They also sell all manner of hobby stuff from Games Workshop and various other places. Right. Superb seller. And if you use the link, there's also a code that you can put in, which is in the channel description, which will give you extra store credit. If you use the link, it will help support the channel. you're going through Element or a third party, you generally get a lot of money off the retail prices from Games Workshop as well. It's usually between 5 and 15% in some cases. Not on all products, but on many of them. And if you use that link in the about section of the channel, I will get a little kickback as well. Everyone's a winner. That's if I've still got an affiliate link now. Having just called Artis Opus brushes expensive. For those of you who don't know, Artis Opus runs Element Games. I mean, in all fairness, everyone I've spoken to about it seems to love the brushes. Say they're the best brushes they've ever used. I've not invested yet, and I'm sure I will be saying the same if I ever do. Other ways you can support the channel involve subscribing and liking and doing all that good stuff, or you could drop me a tip. The link for that is also in the channel description, I think, if I don't happen to be streaming at the time. But there's by no means any requirement for that. I don't need the income to live or anything yet. I mean, that could change with the latest incarnation of Trussonomics. Who knows? Who knows if Liz Truss will even be the Prime Minister at the end of the stream? Who actually knows? I'm not scared of politics. I'll talk politics, I don't care. It's not against the rules on my Discord. I have a Discord, by the way. If you're not on it, why not? Again, if you go to the About section in the description of the channel, there'll be a link to my Discord. It's a small, select, quiet community, but we go for quality over quantity. Or we will do eventually. In the meantime, we're having to make do with people like Mick. Getting towards the end of the stream, and I think we're getting towards the end of almost being complete with this guy. There's a little bit of shading I want to do on him. For that I might reach for the trusty brown sauce. Oh, his boots need doing. What am I going to do with them? I might just leave them. They look alright. They look alright. And I have to stick his hat back on, because of course I want to get the gold on there for the trim. And the gem, or rather the setting for the gem, which means I'll have to go over the gem again. However, going over gems with a base coat of metallic isn't the worst idea. It is quite effective when you then go over with a thin contrast paint or something. Because that's what they suggest you do with the technical paints, the gem technicals. You start off with the metallic and then go over the top with the gem technicals. I've never had much success with them. If you've had success with them, I'd love to hear about it. Stick it in the comments. What tricks of the trade you've found to use with the gem technicals? I've never found them to do that good. Right, I need to stick his head back on. Stick on there. Stick on there. Don't make me get the super glue. That's not stuck on there, and it will be soon. Come on, you're letting the side down now. Come on. Just glue. No. I don't know what's going wrong here. That Tamiya stuff is usually really good. Okay, right. Powering on. Use a little bit of brown sauce, which is old Seraphim Sepia, old Agrax Earthshade, a little bit of Lamia Medium and a little bit of Drakenhof Nightshade to cool it down a bit. I'm going to get a bit of that, I'll stick a bit more Lamia Medium in there to thin it down even more. Just pull that out. We're just going to go in for a bit of a pin shade, just into the recesses. How's the hat doing? Okay, well, no, we're not going to disturb that too much. So just under the so we don't have to do much because the underpainting's done a lot of it. But what this will do is it will fill in the little bits where the paint's missed. And give everything a sort of a nice tone. With a different colour scheme I'd just be slopping this on, but as I'm trying to keep hold of the light white kind of theme rather than going my usual grim darkness, just getting a little bit more careful with it. And go at it with the gold a bit, I think, because that just adds depth to it. Nice inobtrusive all over shade that will just deepen shadows and pull things together. And create extra layers of contrast. Wasn't quite what I wanted to do with that. I had ideas to put a sort of a glow around it, but maybe I'll have a go at that bit later. I'm just going to pull those boots into the rest of the painting by going over them with that. Don't have to be too precious about the boots, because who looks at boots? Who looks at boots? Everyone should look at boots. Everyone should look at boots. Commenting on footwear is a good way of winning points. Not too much, not in a creepy way, but you know. Nice, getting there, very nearly there in fact. Just need to do one more thing, and that one more thing, two more things. Amongst the things I still need to do are such diverse elements as I'll come in again. This stuff, aka interactive true metal gold, is just incredible. That's that all over there. Pull out a little bit of that. You only need a little bit because we're only just sort of beginning with absolute zenith of the highlights on the gold here. Tiny little bit on the brush. Just on absolute upward edges, just drag it over a little bit, spotted here and there, and what it will do is it will just bring that gold up to a lovely luster. such a cool paint. Do need to be a little bit careful with it though, because it's, well, I say a little bit, you're careful with it. If you've got that white spirit, you're in with it. You're off to the races, because it's a waxed oil-based paint, so you'll need white spirit to clean it off. That's why you need to be careful. It's not like it's going to explode or anything. And I think I'm going to call that done. I think he looks all right. And crucially, fits with the rest of, get off the army. Yeah, I have to do more to that pike, and that pike's going to have to change colour. Yeah, I'm liking that. They kind of work together. I was a bit worried that they wouldn't, but they do. Right, so corn sword, corn demon sword, flaming sword. I think it's probably going to have to wait till next week, if you don't mind, Chris. I promise I will do that for you though, because it is a nice simple technique, and it can produce some nice striking results. But for now, I think I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all for joining me. Do the whole like and subscribe thing and all that good stuff that everyone on YouTube says. And I will see you in the next one. He says, putting his miniature down, reaching for mice and things. Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for stopping by, and ta-ta for now.